So let's talk about the Marshall 2555 Silver Jubilee. In this case, the reissue. This is a 2015 model, and there are a few differences in the circuit from the originals from 1987, mainly in the power section, as well as some changes to the effects loop. And from what I understand, it's mostly a quality of life, reliability improvement. So I will get some details on that maybe for later in the video. For this video, I'm playing a Kramer Pacer Deluxe. It's a mutt, so mid to late 80s, various parts put together, and the pickups, I've got EMG S single coils and a 81 humbucker in the bridge, Floyd Rose, and nothing fancy or crazy about it besides the spray paint job. So the amp, it's 100 watts, 4 EL34 tubes, and 3 12AX7s. It does have diode clipping, which is one of the hot topics when it comes to tube amps. This particular model, kind of the classic Marshall style, is that there are 3 tube gain stages, but there's also a clipping diode circuit that adds more gain. So it's technically not a 2-channel amp, but effectively it is. You have this preamp gain control over here. That one controls sort of your channel 1 sort of clean tone. When you pull it out, it engages a clipping diode on that channel, which increases distortion and also lowers the volume by a lot, which is why the next section, there are 2 volume controls. There's the lead master, which controls the volume when you have the lead channel turned on. There it is. The LED for that, and then there's an overall master volume, which affects both the lead and the rhythm channels. There's a shared EQ section, the standard 4-band presence, bass, middle, and treble. And then over here you've also got a high and low output power switch. Basically switches the EL34s from pentode to triode mode in an effect to lose its volume. I find that there's not really a lot of use for that. The amp sounds a little bit better, even set to high output and then the volume turned down sounds better to me, but I'm sure there's some opinions on that. And then the usual standby and power switch. On the back there's an effects loop, jack for this 1-button foot switch that allows you to change channels. If you don't have the foot switch, you can change channels by pulling out the master volume control like that. Obviously it doesn't do anything on mine at the moment because I have the foot switch plugged in. But we're not going to be using, there's no effects or anything like that. The signal chain is just the guitar. It runs through a short pedal board. There's a tuner, Ibanez tube screener, a Boss SD-1, and then a switcher, but none of that stuff is currently in use right now. So we're just going to play it effectively just guitar to amp, and then maybe I'll kick a boost on later, and I'll be sure to point that out. So it's pretty straightforward. So one of the common amps this is compared to other amps in the Marshall range that had clipping diodes at the time. For example, behind me, this JCM900 split channel, this is a 2205, also has diodes on the gain channel. So this one has a normal channel and a boost channel. The boost channel has the clipping diodes and quite a bit more gain than your standard all tube JCM900 like the 2203 or 2204. So that's kind of an interesting take. So these came out in 82, and there's actually a bunch of different circuit revisions. This one's from 85, so it's the second to last circuit revision, but I'll go into some more detail about that in a separate video because that's probably one of my favorite amps of all time. So it deserves its own separate video. But I am going to do a little comparison between these 2 heads because they both existed concurrently at the same time in the Marshall lineup. When these came out, this had already been out for a while and had its circuit revised, and You know, if you were shopping in the store in 1987, you might be weighing out the difference between these two heads. So, and then also over there in the corner, I have a Marshall 2501 Mark III from 1990, which is kind of the same idea. You've got, it's a single channel amp. You've got a gain control, and then you have a sensitivity control, which basically affects how much diode distortion you're adding on top of the tube distortion. And then two master volumes, but it's not a two-channel amp. You're just switching volumes. Not like this, not like the Silver Jubilee where you're switching from a low gain to a high gain structure. On that amp, whatever you have the gain set to, it's always there. And then your standard EQ. So that one is also pretty similar in circuit design to the Silver Jubilee. So we're gonna do a quick comparison here between all three of these Marshall amps that have diodes in them, and just kind of see how the sound has sort of changed with these different circuit designs, especially since they're all from about the same era. I know this is a reissue, but 85, 87-ish circuit design and 1990 are all right in the same ballpark there. And keeping with that theme, the speaker down here in my cabinet is a Celestion G12H-100, which is one of my favorite speakers actually, and the Mark III over there actually is it's a combo, a 1x12 combo, also has the same G12H-100. But for the sake of this video, when we do the comparison, I'm going to run a speaker cable around, and we're going to compare all the amps through the same speaker with the same mic placement. It's a SM57, just off axis, nothing out of the ordinary there, just, you know, basic good sound. I'm recording into a computer with a Focusrite mic preamp. There's no post-processing or anything. I'm just going to take the clips I record from the guitar and just dump them directly into this video so you can listen to them. There's no effects, there's no drums, bass, there's no mixing at all. That's something maybe I'll tackle in a later video, but I don't have the time to dedicate to that sort of thing right now. Let's see, what else as far as specifications? I think that pretty much covers it. So to start off, I'm just going to do kind of a little playthrough, sort of show you what this amp can do, and then I'll dive into the comparison a little bit after that. So first we're starting off just here on the normal channel, and I have the gain, or it's called input gain, turned all the way to the max. So input gain to the max, and this is the kind of sound you're going to get from a humbucker here. So it's pretty clean. There's a little bit of grit to it. Especially when you dig in like that. Moving up to the neck single coil here, it gets very glassy. So something interesting, when the input gain is rolled off, it also reduces the gain on the lead channel. I mean, effectively, this control, even though you're going between two different sort of channel settings, this control affects the gain on both channels. So you can't really dial in, like if you really like this knob at 5, if you really like this super clean sort of tone, and you want to kick on your distortion, you're limited to, compared to if it's maxed and you're getting a much fuller sound there. So really, I think effectively that control is a little bit not all that useful. I mean, at least my experience so far with the amp is that it really only sounds good with the input gain completely maxed on both channels. I mean, I think this clean channel or rhythm channel, you know, sounds pretty good, but it sounds very weak, kind of like as if you turn the volume down on the guitar, kind of, and it didn't quite. It just doesn't feel like it has that dynamic ability to lower the volume, and maybe that's a you know, an issue with the reissue or something. But even with a guitar with passive pickups, I noticed the same thing. I know the EMGs add a lot of compression on their own, but it doesn't seem to be related to pickups. It's really it's an amp specific thing. So so let me pull out the rhythm here, and we'll hear what that sounds like. So as you can hear, it gets a lot quieter and more distorted. And that's kind of where this lead master volume kind of comes in control. So now that we have the main output master up to make up for the volume loss using the rhythm clip, if I switch to the lead channel, it's going to be blastingly louder than. Probably clip the mic right there. Right, so you can control the lead volume by rolling that off. So there we go. Now they're pretty close. So even with the rhythm clip out, it does feel like it has just a tiny bit less sort of punch and gain than the lead channel does. So again, it's another one of those things where I think, you know, and everybody's settings are different, but I'm finding the best combination to be the lead master and input gain maxed with the rhythm clip off. And then just switching between those two modes. And if I needed something kind of in between, because I don't think the lead channel sounds good with this rolled down either. I think if I needed something in between, I'd resort to using a pedal through the unclipped rhythm channel. So just a little bit limiting there. Let me roll that back down about where it was. All right. So one other thing I notice about this amp is that the panel on the front being this lovely mirrored finished, it's very hard to read the controls. All of the text is in black, and it's not a, you know, I always thought it was like a chrome colored finish, but it's absolutely just a mirror. If I look down here, I mean, I can very clearly see myself, my own reflection in that. So it does make the controls a little bit hard to read. I imagine if you were like on stage or something, that would be a really big problem. But you know, you shouldn't have to adjust too much. I mean, once you've got your sounds down, but it would be a little frustrating in a dark situation. And then the other thing is, you'll notice my settings here. This is kind of what I've decided as my personal favorites. I got the presence around 4, bass up around 8, mids around 6, and treble down at 4. Now, this amp does have, the EQ has a lot bigger of effect on the tone than say this JCM900 behind me, which is very, very bright all the time, almost regardless of where you have the settings set at. And even that other, the JCM900, the controls there, they're like a subtle adjustment. And it has something to do with where in the signal path they are. But the Jubilee, it's a drastic change wherever you set the controls. So we'll get into the comparison here, and during the heavy part of the comparison, I'll switch between a scooped sound and a kind of more normal sound so you can hear the difference in the EQ. So I'll go ahead and put those clips right here. right, well that wraps it up. Let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to check out my website. I've got most of my collection photographed on there, including a couple of things that I sadly don't have anymore. I'll be doing some more gear reviews, some comparison between a couple of amps, like these Swans over here are actually very different depending on what year they are. I've got some cool Mesas and Oranges and stuff like that all kind of passing through in and out. And I also have some cool guitars. I might do some reviews on those and sort of talk about things. And yeah, it's going to be cool. So I apologize for the quality of some of the clips. I listened to them back and I'm not 100% happy with them. I'd like to do make them a little more polished, but I've been talking about doing this channel now for almost 2 years, so at this point I just really wanted to get just anything off the ground. So if you made it this far, I know this video is very, very long. Thank you. I appreciate it. So keep an eye out for some more long form content in the future. All right, take care.